Hello, I'm Carl Zielinski, and today I'd like to share something about how you in the Odin programming language usually do not need any big build system. By a big build system, I mean something like CMake or premake or something. And if you have downloaded some projects from GitHub in other languages, sometimes you might have sort of been stopped or given up because you didn't have the build system that this project required to set everything up. In Odin, you usually either do not need any build system at all, or if there is a build system, it's usually just a simple batch file or shell script that executes a few compiler commands in series. So let's look at a real-world example of one of those sort of batch scripts that execute a few Odin commands in series. This one is from the game I'm working on right now, and what it essentially does is that this line here runs an Odin program, well, it builds and runs it. This line here builds and runs another Odin program. This line here builds a DLL, and this line here builds an exe. This line here builds the main video game DLL. The two things above it are just sort of small utility programs that do some code generation and stuff, so they're not really that important. So we can look at this line. It says Odin build game. What this means is that it will look inside the folder game relative to this batch file and build everything inside it as a package. Now this command uses the build mode DLL, and it says to output it to a game.dll. So that's sort of a compile option I put there to make sure that this becomes a DLL instead of a exe. But as you see here, there are no mentions of any linker, like which libraries to link into the final exe or anything like that. It's just a few simple invocations of the Odin compiler. So if we look inside my folder for this game, then like I said, Odin build game looks into the game folder here and builds all that stuff as a package. So if we open that, then we see that in here are a couple of Odin files. Now how the package system in Odin works is that it takes all the files within the folder and compiles them as a single package. So if you add a new file inside here, you do not need to do anything to the build line sort of. This can be compared to, you know, some other languages where whenever you add a new file, you need to rerun a build system because the setup, for example, if you use something like CMake or premake, then you would need to rerun the build system so that it can generate new, perhaps Visual Studio project files that actually contain your new file you have created. But in Odin, everything within a package, even new files, are picked up automatically because all the files within the package are compiled as a single thing. So that's one of the things people usually use build systems for, gone. Another thing people often use build systems for is making sure that the linker gets all the library files it needs in order to successfully link the program. Failing to do this can cause linker errors, and when working with, for example, C++ code, people often run into these things where they try to set up a project, they maybe download it from GitHub and make it all work, but they keep getting very annoying linker errors. However, like I said before, if you look at this Odin build game line here, there are no mentions of any linker parameters, any files to pull into the linker when you build it. However, I am using raylib in this project, and raylib requires some libraries to be pulled in as it is building and linking your program. So how does that work? Well, if we look into one of these files here, such as game.odin, then we see here that I do import raylib up here, and after I've imported it, raylib is available under the namespace rl. So I can then use raylib by typing rl dot blah blah blah, like this. You see here it says rl dot get screen width and stuff. So what we can do is we can look at wherever this file it imports here is, and this comes from the vendor collection, which is a folder within the compiler directory, and under there is a raylib directory. So let's go there. So here is my Odin compiler directory, and as we see, there is a vendor folder here. So if we go inside there, then there is a raylib folder. So when you type something like vendor raylib, these Odin files here are the ones that get imported. And these are imported sort of just as a package, just like I had a game package in my program. These are also a package where all these files are compiled together as a single package. However, raylib is written in C. So what these files mostly do is that they set up bindings into that C library so that we can easily communicate with that C library from our Odin code. So if we look inside raylib.odin here, then we can scroll down a bit and get to this stuff here. This stuff here says when Odin OS is Windows, then it says extra linker flags, and then it says some linker flags, and then it says which library files to import and stuff. And then it does something similar for Linux and for Mac OS. What you need to realize here is that these are not library files that are on your computer. They are shipped with these raylib library binding package. So inside here there is a Windows folder, and inside there is the DLL and the lib files and everything. And this is why whenever you install the Odin compiler and just type import rl vendor raylib or something like that, then raylib just immediately works because it is pulling in these libraries for you. And similarly on Linux and Mac OS, it does similar stuff. Also, I mentioned that this raylib package sets up the actual bindings into the C library, because this thing here is the binary precompiled C library, but it doesn't explain how my Odin code is able to communicate with it. So what we need to notice here is that it says foreign import lib, and this name lib could be anything. It could be like hello. The important thing is that this word lib is reused further down in the file. If we scroll down a bit, here, foreign lib. So within this block, it says how to sort of set up these bindings between the stuff that it got from that library file that was mentioned at the top. It sort of explains how to bind to all those procedures that are within raylib. So we can see here that raylib, for example, exposes init window, and that one should take a width, a height, and a title. And then we notice that there is 3 dashes here on the side. That's just because usually when you declare a procedure, you need to give a body. But since the body sort of comes from the C code, we do not want that. So the triple dashes means leave it uninitialized. Also, since raylib is written in C, you need to specify the calling convention. Odin has its own calling convention and C has its own calling convention. So what you can say just before this foreign lib thing here is that you can say default calling convention C, then all the procedures within this block will use that calling convention so that it properly can call those procedures within that binary raylib library file. So to summarize, if we look at this build.bat file, when you run Odin build game here, it does sort of 2 things. It takes all the Odin files within the game directory and compiles them as a single package. So you do not need a build system to sort of collect your Odin files within there. It takes all of them. And then if the game package imports any other package, those are also pulled in and compiled. And finally, if you pull in something like raylib that needs some binary library files and some extra linker parameters, then the raylib package itself can tell you which binary library files do I need to pull in and which extra linker flags do I need to use. And the compiler will look at this and set it up correctly for you based on these things. That's it for today. I'd like to thank my patrons, and I also like to thank my super supporters on Patreon, Ian Seckington and Player Nathan. If you like these videos and want to support me, then you can become a Patreon, or you can leave a super thanks using the super thanks button just under this video. Thank you so much for watching and happy programming. Bye bye.